I still remember that night. The city smelled of rain and smoke. The fire had just been put out a few blocks away, and the sound of sirens still echoed faintly through the streets. The diner where I worked stayed open late, mostly for shift workers and night owls. But that night it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. It was close to midnight when he walked in, a firefighter, still in his soot-streaked uniform, helmet tucked under one arm. His boots left wet footprints across the black and white floor tiles. You could tell he hadn't slept in hours. His shoulders sagged like someone carrying more than just gear. She noticed him before anyone else did, Clara, our night waitress. She'd been wiping down the counter, humming to herself softly, when her eyes lifted and caught sight of him through the glass door. Her hum stopped mid-note. When he stepped in, the bell above the door jingled, small and fragile against the sound of the storm outside. "You're dripping wet." "Sir?" she said gently, grabbing a towel from the rack behind the counter. Her voice was calm, but there was something in her tone, not flirtation, not pity, something warmer. Something human. He hesitated, looking down at himself like he'd only just realized how soaked he was. Water dripped from his hair onto the counter. "Yeah," he muttered, half smiling. The hydrant fought back. That made her laugh, a quiet, breathy sound that broke the tension in the room. She handed him the towel. "Sit down before you catch something worse than smoke." I remember how he looked at her then, like he wasn't sure if he deserved kindness right now. He sat at the counter, peeling off his gloves, his fingers trembling slightly from the cold. Outside, the rain kept falling. The neon sign flickered, its red glow painting streaks across the window. Inside, the diner was warm, coffee brewing, bacon sizzling faintly, the air heavy with the smell of damp clothes and relief. "Coffee?" she asked. He nodded. Black. As she poured, her eyes lingered on the soot marks around his collar, the burns along the edge of his gloves. She hesitated before asking, "Rough night?" He didn't answer right away, just stared into his cup as if the steam could show him something he didn't want to see. "We lost a kid tonight," he said finally, voice barely above a whisper. Didn't make it out. The room went still. Even the rain seemed quieter for a second. Clara's hand paused mid-air. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." Sometimes those words hurt more than silence. Instead, she set a fresh napkin beside his cup, her fingers brushing his hand for just a second. Small gesture. Big meaning. He didn't pull away. I remember feeling the weight of that moment. Two strangers, soaked in tragedy, finding something wordless between them. Compassion, maybe. Or recognition. Both had been burned in different ways. After a while, she tried to lighten the air. "You look like you've been through hell," she said softly. He gave a tired grin. "Hell's got better lighting." That made her smile. "You talk like you've been there before." "I go there often," he replied, eyes distant. "Comes with the job." For a moment she didn't know what to say. So she poured another cup, not for him but for herself, and sat across the counter. They didn't talk much after that. Just sipped coffee while the city kept crying outside. Then something unexpected happened. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small charm, a silver cross, slightly bent and blackened. He placed it on the counter right next to her napkin. "Found this tonight," he said. It was the only thing that didn't burn. She looked at it, then back at him. "Whose was it?" He hesitated. "The kid's. Thought I'd keep it safe, until I figure out who it belonged to." Her eyes softened. "You're carrying more than you should," he shrugged. "Someone has to." The air between them thickened again. Not with grief this time, but something quieter. Understanding. I could see it even from my corner booth. The way she leaned forward, elbows on the counter, and said in almost a whisper, "You don't have to save everyone, you know." He looked up, eyes meeting hers. "And what if I can't stop trying?" That silence that followed, it wasn't awkward. It was heavy, alive, like two people who had both lost something but found a piece of it reflected in each other. Minutes passed. The diner emptied. The storm softened to a drizzle. The firefighter finally smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. "Thanks," he said. "For what?" she asked. "For treating me like a person?" Clara laughed lightly. "That's all you are, isn't it?" He looked down, then back up. "Haven't felt like one in a long time." She reached out, almost instinctively, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. A small, nervous gesture. "Maybe tonight's the start." He opened his mouth to respond, but his radio crackled on his belt. A voice, static-filled and urgent. Unit 4, report to Station 3. Possible rekindle. He sighed, pushed his chair back. Duty calls. Clara stood there, towel still in hand, watching him gather his helmet. You'll come back, right? He paused at the door, water dripping from his gloves, his silhouette framed by the neon glow. Only if you keep the coffee hot. She smiled. Always do. And as he walked into the rain again, she watched until he disappeared beyond the corner. I remember looking at her face then, not sadness, not joy, something in between. Like she'd seen a ghost that reminded her she was still alive. That night stayed with me. Because sometimes love doesn't start with fireworks. Sometimes it starts with rain, coffee, and two broken people sharing silence. If stories like this remind you of the quiet kindness still left in the world, maybe you belong with us. Subscribe to Tale Story House, where every story feels like a heartbeat. It was 2 nights later when I saw him again. Same diner, same seat, but this time the rain had stopped, and so had the sirens. The city outside was calm, too calm, like the aftermath of a long cry. Clara was refilling sugar jars when the bell above the door jingled again. She turned, and there he was, helmet under one arm, uniform still smelling faintly of smoke and ash. He looked different, though. Lighter somehow. His eyes weren't as hollow as before. Back for the coffee? She teased softly, tucking a stray hair behind her ear again. He smiled. And maybe for the company. I sat in my usual corner booth, pretending to be busy with my notes. But truth be told, I was watching every moment unfold like it was a movie I didn't want to end. He sat, and she poured him a cup, black, same as before. But this time she joined him without hesitation. You find the kid's family? She asked after a while. He nodded, eyes fixed on the steam rising from his cup. Yeah, dropped the cross off yesterday. His mom cried. She didn't say much, just hugged me. It was enough. Clara nodded, her expression quiet, reflective. Closure's a heavy thing. You think it helps, but it still leaves a mark. He looked up at her. You sound like you know. She hesitated. The lights reflected in her eyes. Those warm brown eyes that always seemed to carry too much sorrow for someone so young. I used to be married, she said finally. He was a firefighter, too. That made him freeze. He didn't speak, didn't even blink. Just watched her. He died in a warehouse collapse 6 years ago. She continued, her voice trembling slightly. I was 23. Still waiting tables back then, too. Funny how life doesn't stop, no matter what burns down. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft clinking of her spoon against the cup. He finally whispered, I'm sorry. Clara gave a small, sad smile. Don't be. I learned to live with ghosts. They visit sometimes, when the night's quiet enough. He nodded slowly. Maybe that's why you understood. Understood what? That night, he said softly. When you looked at me like that. Like you knew what loss smelled like. Clara exhaled, eyes lowering. Maybe I did. He reached into his pocket and pulled something out. Not the cross this time, but a small patch, half burnt, with the letters FD still visible. This was his, wasn't it? Her breath caught. She stared at it, her hand trembling. How did you... After the fire, he interrupted gently. I found it near the hydrant. Didn't know whose it was until now. Her eyes shimmered with tears she didn't let fall. She held the patch, pressing it to her chest like a prayer. I thought it was gone forever. He smiled faintly. Maybe it found its way home. There was something sacred in that silence that followed. Not grief, not romance. Something purer. Recognition. Two souls meeting in the ashes of what they'd both lost. After a moment, Clara whispered, Do you ever get tired of saving people? He chuckled softly, shaking his head. You don't get tired of saving people. You get tired of not being saved yourself. That line lingered in the air, heavy and painfully true. Then, unexpectedly, Clara stood up and walked around the counter. She sat across from him in the booth beside the window, where the rain once traced its restless patterns. I can't fix you, she said quietly. But I can listen. He looked at her, eyes softening. That's all anyone ever needs, isn't it? They talked for hours. About everything. About loss, duty, guilt, small joys. About the way city lights look different when you've spent your night saving strangers. About how silence can feel louder than sirens when you're finally alone. I sat there, long after my shift ended, pretending to clean just so I could keep listening. By dawn, His eyes were red, but his smile, that quiet, genuine smile, had returned. Before leaving, he pulled out his phone. "Can I call you sometime?" "You know, for the coffee." Clara laughed softly. "You mean for therapy?" He grinned. "Same thing, isn't it?" She thought for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, maybe it is." He left then, stepping out into the pale morning light, helmet under his arm again. But this time, when he looked back, she was still standing by the window, watching him go, smiling faintly. Weeks passed, and every few nights the bell above the door would ring. Sometimes he came straight from work, still in uniform, still smelling of smoke. Sometimes he came in plain clothes, just another man seeking warmth in a city that rarely offered it. They'd talk, laugh, sometimes sit in silence. She started keeping a second mug just for him. The Firefighter's cup, she called it, and one night I saw him bring her something wrapped in a napkin. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a new patch, clean, unburnt, embroidered with gold thread. It read, "Clara's Diner Fire Dept, Honorary Member." She laughed through her tears. "You're ridiculous," he smiled. "You earned it. I don't think anyone else in that diner understood what it meant, but I did." It wasn't romance, at least not the kind with roses or whispered promises. It was something stronger, two people choosing to show up for each other when the world didn't. That night, as they shared their coffee by the window, rain began again, gentle this time, like the city was blessing them. I turned off the sign outside, leaving just the soft glow of the counter lights. And as I watched them talk, her laugh low and warm, his eyes finally at peace, I thought about how healing doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it walks in, dripping wet, just needing somewhere to sit. If stories like this remind you that even in our darkest hours, connection can heal, subscribe to Tale Story House, where every story leaves a quiet light in your heart.